What's up guys, Evil here. Not quite sure on the day, but I'm pretty much 1 year in from when I did the first video on my MST drift car. So I thought I would do kind of a long-term update. Also, I have had a chance to spend some time with my new drift car, which is the Yokomo DIB V2. That's set up kind of the same, so I've got to spend some time, so I thought I'd do a little bit of the compare and contrast between those two. Mainly because I see people post on the videos of my MST, you know, hey, I was pondering back and forth between these two cars, and now I actually own both of them, so I thought I would maybe do a little bit of insight into that. So anyway, so this car, for those of you who don't know, started life as the MS01D Pro. It's since been upgraded to, I don't know, it's probably almost VIP spec. It doesn't have the VIP lower deck, which is a carbon fiber, and I believe this one is partially graphite, I'm not sure, but in any case, it's got most of the aluminum and stuff now that I've upgraded over time. It's kind of funny because I ran across that video earlier and I was complaining about not having this cross member when I was doing the build, and I had ordered it the other day, so anyway, that was just kind of funny and ironic. But yeah, I've upgraded all the bulkheads, the knuckles, all that good stuff. I also switched to the shorty battery. I don't know if you can tell by looking at it. Actually, here's the old battery tray. So there's the stock battery tray, and you can see the one I have in there now uses the short battery packs. So no real performance version or benefit there. I just did that because I had bought new batteries, because the Yokomo that I'm running uses the shorty pack, so I went ahead and converted this car to run that as well. So a year in to owning this car, I still haven't found anything I like better. Don't get me wrong, I really like this car. This is a very, very nice car. I think if someone buys this, they won't go wrong. It's a great car, but out of the box, I don't feel it's quite as good out of the box as the MST car is. For one thing, the suspension on this car is super, super stiff, stock. So I've switched out to MST springs to get it similarly sprung to my MST car. And that's mainly just for my feel. I'm kind of used to driving a more what's the word I'm looking for? A lower damped suspension setup, a softer car, and I've gotten kind of used to that. So I switched out to the MST. These are the 32 millimeter springs to give the Yokomo kind of the same feel. The Yokomo, these two cars, I mean, they're both fantastic cars. The Yokomo, I feel, is a little bit over-engineered. Like, stuff is like super complicated. I mean, if you look at the front of this thing, it's just kind of crazy looking. Versus the MST car, which is, it's a little bit more Spartan as far as the design. Infinitely adjustable, this car. And a little bit more kind of outside of the box thinking, I guess, as far as you can tell that these guys, they weren't a traditional RC manufacturer. I think when they kind of laid this car out, they didn't really have the mentality that a lot of manufacturers do, such as using, traditional uprights, things like that. I mean, this is essentially using like steering drag links to adjust the rear toe on the car. That's just kind of, this kind of stuff would never hold up in a racing situation. The first time you kissed a board with that thing at speed, you'd probably break off a ball cup or something. But for drift, it seems to hold up just fine. But you can tell this car was, 100% kind of dreamed up as a drift car. So whereas Yokomo, they have a long racing dynasty history, so there's some more traditional stuff going on. with the car. So also a couple things, like this car doesn't come with counter steer options out of the box. You have to buy that separately, where the MST gives you tons of options out of the box. Things like that I don't like as well. This is the version 2 that has the Type C suspension setup. You can see it has the A-type front suspension arms. A-type, I think, sorry, C-type. And then, you know, a standard C-hubless design, C-hub delete design. So that's something Yokomo did on its own. That's an update to the existing package. That's all new stuff that they've done to basically an update to an older car. So there is that. It is nice that they, you know, they offer most of the tuning options out of the box, or not out of the box, but you know, they're available if you want to adjust the car, you know, to add CS and stuff. But then again, the car is already pretty expensive, and then, you know, you're putting more costs on top of that just to get it the way you want it. So not to mention Yokomo parts are not cheap, so somewhere around $35-40 or something said and done to get this car to a 1-point CS, like my MST car is. So major differences in the way they drive. This car, I think, you know, if you were going to this car without having driven anything else, you know, you would take to it and you would drive just fine. But with being how stiff it is out of the box, it was very, very twitchy. Not as friendly to drive right out of the box versus this car, which, man, as soon as I threw it down, I was comfortable with it, just right away. And even changing surfaces on the carpet, on the very slick concrete, no matter what I'm driving this car on, it always feels good to me, even if you're not running an ideal tire. Let me think, what else can I say about the Yokomo? They do a lot to kind of minimize the chassis footprint. That was the main reason I went with the short battery, was just to get the real estate to get, you know, have room for my electronics up here. The car is the layout is very tight. You can see, to be able to change the battery, you have to pop this tray, and the ESC literally swings out of the way to get access to the battery. So it gives you an idea of how tight real estate is on this car. That being said, the MST, it sounds like a rattletrap freight train going around the track compared to the Yokomo. The first time I took it to a drift meet, nobody could believe how whisper quiet the thing was. Amazingly quiet, this car. And I don't really know why. The belt layout and everything is not much different than the MST, other than, you know, they use ball bearings here, where the MST just kind of goes straight to the pulleys. Other things I like better about the Yokomo than the MST is the belt tensioners. I think Yokomo has been well known for a while for their clicker style belt tensioners on their touring cars, so this car has that as well. It has a really nice system for adjusting belt tension, and really easy to make it the same on both sides. You can see here, if this will focus, there it goes. You can see the mark on that bearing cam in there. There's a ball detent, so you can literally click that thing to make adjustments. Doing this, adjusting those things on the MST is a friggin' nightmare. I don't know if the VIP has different bearing cams, but on the Pro, I mean, it's nightmarish to get them right, or to get them right. Several times I thought I had them, but then I would look later and it would be acting funny because the cam had moved a little bit while I was tightening down the bulkhead. So some other little things that I have had problems with the MST that I don't really like. It seems like their shock position, the front shock position, and that may be just due to the age of the MS01D. I think is one of their older designs. But the shock just seems really far out. I had previously been running 3mm offset wheels on this car, and you can see here, these are the Tetsujins, and they're at 6mm, but even at 6mm, it will contact the bottom of the shock. So I one time had switched wheels to a different offset. I didn't really pay attention to my endpoints because I was at a drift meet, and I just went out there and drove, and I ended up torching a pretty expensive servo because it was literally bottoming out, touching the shock, and it finally broke the gears in the servo. So that kind of annoys me how wide the shocks are, or the shock mounting is on this car. It would be nice to maybe switch out to a different lower A-arm in this car to get some more real estate in that area, because the car has the ability with 9mm offset wheels. I mean, it'll do a ton of steering throw, but as it is right now with 6mm or lower, you're going to be touching the shock with that inside wheel, unless I decrease Ackerman, which I guess I could do, but it seems like a stupid reason to have to do it. On the Yokomo, it has a little more steering throw than the MST. That's at full lock, and then you can still see there's a decent gap between the shock and the tire, and even at that much throw, the CVD still spins nice and freely. So steering on this car is a little bit nicer. Also, it has a little more adjustment for caster, so you can get that wheel laid back a little more when the car is turning. So a bit more adjustment up front. With the MST, you're kind of limited by, there's only 2 sets of holes, so unless they make a different arm or something that sets it back, like maybe you could flip this thing over to get a little bit more out of it, but not quite as adjustable in that department. I feel like the steering rack is a little bit better on the MST car versus the Yokomo. The Yokomo looks like a tank as far as the steering rack is concerned, but it had a little more slop than I thought it would. So this was not a huge deal, but out of the box, MST doesn't put anything on the back of the car. They recently released this kind of rear bumper thing, but it looked kind of incomplete on the rear of this car, so this was like a $6 piece that I added. I also bought the billet spring cups because the stock ones actually got melted from my wheel touching them, so I thought it was a good time to upgrade. Other than torching that servo, I haven't had any issues with this car as far as maintenance. I seem to have stripped out my stealth body mount there, so I'll have to replace that, but other than that, the car has been really solid. No bearing failures, shocks aren't leaking. It's really, with the amount of hours I've put on it in the last year, it's really been amazingly solid. Still, the front one-way is kind of never really loosened up on this car, versus look at the one-way on this car. It spins like a freaking two-wheel drive. Anyway, moving on. So I guess said and done, these are both really fantastic cars. I really like them both, but if I had to pick between the two, I would still stay with my MST. Not because I really think it's that bit of a car, but I'm way more comfortable with it, and that's probably due to a lot of the, I've had a lot more wheel time with this car. I like the Yokomo quite a bit. There's a lot of things I like about it, but if I had to pick between these two, I would still go with the MST at this point. Even with all my upgrades, it's probably a little bit cheaper than the Yokomo. I've seen this thing up in the $600 range, depending on where you buy it. Where this, fully upgraded, there's maybe 500 or so in it. So anyway, that's my kind of long-term review / comparison video on these two decently high-end drift cars. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Also, due to my lack of video updates and videos I've been doing lately, is really due to I'm now writing about drift for Big Squid RC, which is a pretty large RC blog, and that's really kind of taken my time as far as doing a lot of this stuff. So if you guys, I write about scale stuff too, but I'm not the scale guy there. That's Doug Welker. But I mostly write about drift, so if you want to read my stuff, just go there and search drift itch, like scratch drift itch is what I'm calling it. But I'm doing some scale stuff here and there, products and things like that. So if you are missing my videos or whatever, and I'm not doing enough for you, head out to Big Squid RC and check out my stuff I'm writing out there. Really having fun with it. They're letting me just kind of do blog stuff with it that I used to do on video, so I can just write about things that I'm up to, like the scale drift track, car builds, products that I like, things like that. So check me out there, bigsquidrc.com. So thanks guys for watching. Please subscribe if you have not, and we'll catch you on the next one.